Hey there, hey, it's Michelle with Brilliant Quest, and today we're going to be going into something that's a little deep, but is needful. And I want to ask you, are you living on autopilot? Are you feeling like you've ruined your life? Now, you don't have to tell anybody, but you can just be like, yeah, Michelle, that's me. And it's okay. And the reason why I say it's okay is because I've been there. You see, when I was going through my odyssey, and I talk about that in my Mental Mojo video about how for 7 years, I couldn't trust myself, my mind. I felt betrayed on an internal level because I was going through something, a rite of passage that most women go through, and that was menopause. And during that time, I felt like I had ruined my life. Now, of course, I wouldn't say this out loud, no, but it was there. And so I want to give you some food for thought. I want to be vulnerable enough with you to let you know what I did. And I do want to say this at the beginning. I do not have all the answers. This is not me trying to talk down to you and say, you should do this or that. No, this is me giving you a few little things because, of course, this can't be exhaustive. It would take forever. And I want you to know that it gets better. If you are feeling like, well, why should I even try? I've just messed it all up. That is not the period to how this sentence ends. Okay. In a previous video, I talked about, and y'all know I have my allergy issues here. But in a previous video, I talked about the crossroads, and I talked about it from a African tradition of Orishas, and I highlighted Papa Legba, or the trickster guy, where we get the prototypes of Bugs Bunny and the rabbit, the tricked rabbit, and all of those types of things. And Papa Legba lives in the crossroads. Now, the thing is you can't stay in the crossroads with him. You can try, but it's hard. And the crossroads are meant for you to have a test so that you can go in the next and best direction for you. And so I'm going to cut to the chase and say that for me, when I was at this point where I felt like I don't have anything else to give or offer because I've just flubbed it, I've messed it up. I had to realize that I was at the crossroads. And I'll put that video. I'll put that video up here so that you can go and check it out. Because I can't rehash it here because I got so much more. I got notes. Y'all got notes. So much more I want to talk to you about today. But understanding that there is really no ruination going on. Most things are redeemable. Okay. So I want to encourage you to fight for the sight to see your tomorrow. You don't have to see future past tomorrow, but I just need you to be able to know tomorrow gets better, because in every day and every way, we're getting better and better. If you intend that every day you get just a percentage better, small, even a fraction of percentage better, that's movement in the right direction. All right. So let me get to the notes so that I can get you to start seeing things in a better way for yourself. Okay. All right. Now, remember, this is just comrade to comrade. This is me, trying to give you some big sister help advice. And I don't know you. I don't know everything about you. And so I've tried to keep this as general as possible with believing that this will help a majority of people. But you're going to have to do a little more work past it. Okay. If you have some specifics, put them in the comments and let's see if, I can make additional videos to address them if they're not so specific that they are really just for you. If that be the case, then check the description and we can do a one-on-one. There are links in the description for if you want to do that. Okay. All right. So here we go. So if you feel like you're on autopilot, if you feel like your life is ruined, some of the areas that I can definitely speak to is a fear of the future and a regret of the past. I can definitely speak to a lack of fulfillment. And then this is a big one. The regret of a lingering mistake. And then this one, understanding the shifting of priorities, understanding that some youthful things that you want, or I wanted to happen in my life or in your life, they're not going to happen. And we need to accept that and move on, but build something just as good or better. Okay. So those are some of the areas that I want to bring to you right now. I'm kind of laughing because at this point, looking back on those previous 7 years, it's laughable at how my mind was so tied up and twisted and obsessing about the wrong thing. And, having this woe is me pity party. And it was horrible. And the reason why it was horrible is because I was locked in this loop and I didn't tell anybody. I would talk around it, but I didn't tell the truth. And so that's going to be one of the biggest things I'm going to tell you. And the biggest thing I'm going to tell you is the power of communication. You and I are all human, as I think we are. We're all human. And some of the negative emotions that we deal with outside of fear and anger, they need to be expressed out, meaning they need to be communicated out. That's why you have therapists. You pay people to listen to you and, give you insights and feedback, because communication is very powerful. It's right up there, I believe, with breathing. And so if you're feeling that you've just messed it up, there's no turning back. That's not true. And the first thing that I'll say that should not cause you to go off the deep end of, despair, like I can't do this, is to say something. Now, of course, qualify who you say it to. If you've got a confidant of a friend, and check out, I did a video about the 5 friend types that you need to have. Check that out. But if you have a confidant type of a friend, that would be a good place to start. Confess. There's a reason why some religions install confessions, where you get absolved, if you will, of the issue. Because confession is good for the soul. But communicating and getting it out. If you don't have any of the people or the opportunities to confess it to someone, journal it out. If you're scared that someone is going to read it, once you journal it out, burn it. Now, make sure you do it in a safe way. Don't burn down your house or anything, but burn it. But get it outside of you. Communicate it out. Because staying with all of that stuff locked in your mind, you will spiral to a point of cuckooville. And I was a resident for too long, and I had to get past that. And so this is Big Sis Michelle loving you enough to be like, it's never going to be as bad as your mind and the boogeyman can make it. Your life is not ruined. There are so many new ways that you can go. Now, let me tell you a little bit about why I thought my life was ruined. I had a lot of ambitions growing up. For one, I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. Well, I ended up being at first, sociologist, but then they changed the rules where you had to get a PhD, a doctorate, and I only had a master's in it. And I was just like, well, here we go. It's just always these things where I didn't get what I wanted. And so I was like, oh, well, that's a failure. Well, that's a failure. And I wouldn't say it to others, but I would say it to myself, and I would kick myself because I felt stupid in that. And this is just being honest and real. I felt stupid because I ended up with 3 master's degrees and no doctorate. And I had friends that just went straight through, got their doctorate, whether it was medical or PhD or other, and they were getting all these accolades and getting all of these wins. And here I was just piling on student debt, piling on more things, that the hoops that I jumped through. And I'm not blaming anyone else. It was me. It was the cuckoo-ness of the circuitous routes, to things. But lo and behold, I did not realize that every part of the trail, the path, the hike that I had to go, I'm able to use it now. And now it's so much clearer. It's so clear why you had to get a counseling degree, why you had to get a psychology master's, why you had to get an MBA to understand money, and all of those different aspects. And it is because for such a time as this, so that I could come to you, not with theory, not with pie in the sky, you should do this. No, with saying, hey, I'm down in the trenches right with you. This is what happened to me. This is how I worked it out. This is how I helped other people work it out. And now I'm sharing it with you, because I don't believe that you have to go through it if you can shortcut it by going through my experiences, other people's experiences, and the knowledge, education, and expertise that I've gotten over the years. And so I'm going to say it again. Your life is not ruined. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to find a way to communicate where you are. Do not hold that inside. Okay? We got that? Good. Whether you talk to a therapist, to a confidant of a friend who understands, don't tell your business and don't judge you, or you have to write it out. And if it's so bad that you don't want anybody to ever see it, burn it. But you must get to the point where you can get all of that negativeness out. And a lot of the negative emotions around the reason why we feel this way is because it's trapped inside with nowhere to go. And if you hold it for too long, it could turn into a physical ailment. So get rid of it. All right. So the next thing is, and like I said, I'm reading my notes because I want to make sure that I give you some things that have helped me and hopefully will help you. Okay. So the next thing is, remember how I talked about in the intro, the stuff that I wanted to cover. One of the ones was the youthful goals that I had. And it took me a while to let them go. And because when you're younger, things mean more because you haven't had as much experience. So they have a bigger impact and imprint on your life than they do. So you at 20 and what you say you want to do with your life has a bigger impact than you at 40 and what you say I'm going to do with my life here, moving on. And it's because at 20, you've not had the experience that you had at 40. And it's not that at 20, you can't do certain things. I just need you to understand that it might have been for that time frame. This is not to pick on anyone. But in the music industry, it is at this particular time, It is harder for people to start in the rap game in their 40s than in their 20s. And I'm not saying this as opinion. I'm just going to put a few things out there for you to chew on. Why is it that a lot of the rappers at this particular time have words like little, young, shorty? They all denote youth. A favorite rapper of mine from Outkast, Andre 3000, recently came out last year or some time ago. And if you're watching this in the future, hey, thank you. Keep watching. It will help you. But anyway, he talked about why he was like, I'm gonna play my flute. I'm not trying to rap. He says, what am I gonna rap about? Colonoscopies? And it made sense because he understands that some of the things that you long to have and accomplish in your youth may not be where you are now. And so because of that, I was having unfulfillment. I was having lack of fulfillment and purpose and meaning in my life because I hadn't become that great doctor. I hadn't become that, leading person in biology and neuroscience and all of those things that I wanted. And I had to chill, Shell, there's still life to be led. And I'll say it's really hard to tell yourself this when your mind is going through depression, anxiety, sudden instances of impending doom, looping, losing words, and all of the stuff. And even bouts that feel like adult onset hyper activity disorder, and okay, what do I do? Those types of things with so many thoughts trying to come through at one time that they all get clogged and pressuring. Being in that predicament and looking at the fact that, but I wanted to be this. Am I ever going to be this? It was hard. And so that's why I want to encourage you. I know it's hard. It's painful. It's embarrassing. It might be where you don't feel like you can tell anybody just where your mind is. But I need you to know there's a brilliant quest waiting for you. And it starts with you understanding there is no ruination. As long as you got breath, that means that the universe has decided you still got purpose and goals and things to experience in your life for fun, for freedom, and for help. So let that understanding go. Okay, so that was me having unfulfilled burning things in my life that I wanted from teenage years. And I had to realize in this particular time in my 40s, it's like, that's not happening. Let it go, Shell, and let's start working on something new. And so the regret of lingering mistakes. Now I'm going to say this one is not necessarily one that I would put in the top of what I had, but I had to be careful for it not to be one in the top of what I suffered with. I put it here because I personally know a lot of people who have this one. And I'm going to just tell you, regret, of lingering mistakes, and I'm looking at my notes, you guys, sorry if I keep looking down, but regret and the one of the got-yous to stay away from is comparison. Let me say that again. To stay away from the trap of regret, because regret will quickly get you think you've ruined your life, is to stay away from comparison. And social media makes it where it is hard not to compare. What happens when you run across someone that you went to high school with, and that little job that they worked at the town that you left, they've gone from just working at a front desk to now they're the CEO of the company, or they're some big biggity wig, and they look like they have it all together. They have the reputation. They've got the loving family. They've got the adoration. They've got all the trappings of what you think is success. And here you are having to start over, or you never got that quote unquote big break. And so you're still having issues, whether it be finding a mate, or figuring out your finances, or learning how to just live in your own skin every day and like it. Those are the things that are a quick run off of a short ramp that get you into regret, and thus into being hypercritical to just obsess over what you think are your mistakes. And you end up at the conclusion, why should I even try to do this? Because I've ruined my life. Stay away from that. Okay. The next one is a fear of the future. Now I did have this one really big. And let me say this. The reason why this one is next is because regret, if you notice, I gave you an example of someone from your past. Regret is when you focus too much on what was behind. I should be doing it this way. Too much on what was behind you, and not being able to live in the now, to deal with the now, because it's really painful. Because in the now, it's as real can get. You see, we can color our past with whatever kind of shade or tint, whether it be rosy or it be blue. We can shade our past and however we want to remember that. But dealing with the now is like, either you're going to be realistic or you're just going to be cuckoo. And it's really painful to look at what's staring at you, because the now always requires that we take some action, that we take some movement, because if you don't, it only gets worse. Okay, so let me talk about the future. The fear of the future. Now with the fear of the future, If you don't have a anchoring of the present, meaning that you're okay with living in your skin in the now, which if you feel like your life is ruined is really hard. It is hard to conjure up a future that looks any better. Now, of course, there are people that are being fanciful out there every day. They are in cuckoo land and they're telling you, well, nah, I'm going to be this and that. And you see nothing of what they're doing in the now. But then there are those people who are so turned around that they expend a lot of energy of running in place and they're tired and they're not getting any movement. And it is because of this fear of the future. It is because of a confusion of how to get out of where you are now. It might be that you're entertaining so many different things that you think might do the trick to get you out of your rut that you're stymied, that they're all complex, that they're all requiring you to be something that you know you're not. And so the fear of the future it's diabolical and it will have you stuck because you don't even realize that you have this fear. One of the tip-offs that you have a fear of the future is if you live in dread, if you have anxiety or panic. Now, this is not practicing medicine, y'all. It is not. I'm just giving you some of the things that you can easily Google and they're going to say the same thing. I'm just shortcutting it for you and putting it here for you so that you'll understand it. But those are some of the tip-offs that it may be where you're not living in the present. You're living in a murky future that is the boogeyman, that is only going to cause you demise. Because when you have a fear of the future, you're fearing that you don't see yourself in the future. You're fearing that the future kills you or you die before you get to the future. So why be there when it's only darkness and I can't see anything and I can't see anything good about myself? So be aware of that and stop it. And when I say stop it, when you realize that that's what you do, put yourself in the now. Remind yourself, I'm here right now. What can I do in this moment? And that brings me to this acronym of SMART. And it is a way that people started using SMART in the way to get stuff done in business, to be productive, right? And lo and behold, it was where we were able to, use it in getting our lives. And I'm looking through my notes because there's something else I want to say about, SMART before we move on. But it's simple, manageable. It is tactical. It is where you can take immediate action with SMART goals. And the first thing I want to say to you is that it might take you a while to get out of the ruminating over my life has been ruined, but it is simpler than you can ever imagine. Okay. So let me recap real quick before I give you this next one, because after you start communicating, after you start realizing these little mental traps, I want you to evaluate the questions that you ask yourself. Sometimes people in this particular predicament, and like I said, I'm looking at notes, y'all, they look at reasons, benefits, your time, your quality of life, interest. These are triggers to help or harm you. So usually if you're feeling nihilistic about your life, time can look like a prison. It can look like it's dragging on or it's moving without you. But you can you can change that by respecting time. And this is, I'm telling you some of the stuff I did. So with my time, instead of looking at it as an adversary come to get me in check and to torture me, I started asking time, how can I respect you so that I can get benefits from you? And you know what, time was really good to me. Time was like, don't take me for granted. Respect me by showing up. Respect me by planning and putting time limits on. The other day, I was talking about Parkinson's law that talks about, it's a principle that talks about something will take the amount of time that you allow for it. And when I was trying to claw my way out of all these adversarial things, of feeling like I was constantly left behind, time reminded me of that. And so I started timing myself. Yes. I mean, from the littlest things, I would time myself of how much time it would take for me to clean up the kitchen. I would set the timer on the stove. I use the stove timer and I'd get in there. And then I got to the point where I could use less and less time because it was more, it felt like I was getting unclogged in the pathways in my mind, like time was actually helping me. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then time also was like, I can help you if you get a routine. So I started reinvesting in routines. And I've talked a lot about the power of routines. I started reinvesting in routines and I had to play around. I'm not gonna lie. It took me a few years to figure out what was the optimal routines for me to actually stick to them. And what I found about that is that time was like, If you don't know how long it will take you to do something, it's not part of your routine yet. It only becomes part of your routine when you have a time range that you know you can accomplish this. Time also helped me to understand that my routines were too complex, and that's why I was overwhelmed and feeling like, well, why even bother? Time was like, simplify it so that you can get it done in a timely manner. That's one example. Now, for sake of time on this video, I'm going to just quickly go through a few of the other ones, but I'll repeat them all. So these were some, and I called them my get right keywords. And so I had time, interest, context, quality, reason, and benefit. And so I talked to you, I gave you an example about time, how I use that. For interest, I looked at the areas that I felt numb and apathetic about. And I did not try to use the word why. I was not interested in why I wasn't interested. Instead, I looked at interest as a measure of my output, my ability to engage with something. And what I found was that I didn't have interest because I didn't have a personal understanding of the context or why I needed to do something for my longevity. You see, when your life is in shambles and you're feeling like you're in ruination, it disconnects you with purpose and reason. Okay, so I've mentioned two others of the keywords by just talking about interest. So with that context, oh, that was a big one. Because I had gotten to the point in my state of lethargy, of apathy, of numbness, depression, and anxiety, that I had lost the context of meaning that I looked at everything on one level. And I didn't realize that depending on the situation, the circumstance, I can have different contexts, and thus I could raise my interest or lower my interest. And by doing that, it took the energy that I thought it was going to expend for me to fake it till I make it, for me to do it. Because I was like, oh, okay, well, in this context, I only have to be engaged for 2 hours. But in this context, it's not as demanding, you know. And I'm talking about work I had to get done, y'all, you know, to feed myself and stuff. So yeah. So interest is a big one. Context is what I just talked about. So the next one was quality. Yes. I had to reinstill an old saying that my grandmother said to us, especially when we would do chores. And she was like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I had looked at stuff that I had done prior to my odyssey. And I was like in amazement of that, Michelle. And I was like, oh, I miss her so much. I wish I could be like her, because I couldn't see the quality of existence, the quality of what I could produce. I struggled. And instead of letting that beat me down and long for a Michelle of the past and run the risk of getting into regret, I was like, nope, we're going to work with what we have right now. And so with the quality, what I did was the best I could with the resources I had. Shout out to Brene Brown, Daring Greatly. Oh, she's got so many different books, but Daring Greatly is one of them that I do want to give a shout out to. I put it here because it'll help you with this. And as I started that and putting the intention of being interested in it, even if I knew, give it 2 hours. I mean, I had to work up to 2 hours, but give it 2 hours. Time is going to reward you. And because you know the context by which you're doing this, it's going to make sense so that you can persevere through it. And remember, I set timers for everything. So that's how I know, you know, how I work this. And then reason. As I said, when I was talking about context and interest, when you know the reason, because a lot of times when you're feeling like everything is just, you throw reason out with the bathwater and you forget that there really is a reason for you to exist, for you to live, for you to do. It got to the point where one of my reasons was when I woke up in the mornings and I took in a breath, I was like, there's a reason why I'm here. I'm still useful for something. I'm still going to find my purpose. I'm still going to find my fulfillment. And the reason why, and the fact that I got another day is a good enough reason for me to get out of this bed and for me to do and not just go in a corner and try to disappear, you know? So reason. And then the next one was benefit. At first, y'all, I was so in myself that I could not see any benefit for living. I'm just being honest. I know this is kind of heavy, but I'm sharing with you because I know somebody is out there like me. And if I can just give you some of the shortcuts that I use to claw my way back and to be able to look you in your eye and tell you your life is not in ruin. It might feel that way, but these are some of the things that I use, and you can borrow them. I'm giving them to you. You can borrow one. I know this can work for you. Okay, so with the benefit, what I started doing was I started saying to myself, you have something that others want and need that only you can provide in your special way. And what I started doing was I started writing my way out of hell through my journals. I've talked about journaling so much. I'm just going to say, get on this. Don't miss out. And through journaling and getting all the crap out of myself where I would self-doubt and tell myself, nobody wants to listen to me. You don't have nothing to say, you know, that kind of stuff. It started emerging that no, this is a new chapter in your life. Forgetting those things that are behind you, you're going to press toward the mark of the high calling that's before you. You're not going to fear your future. There is great benefit for you in the now. When you do this, when you simply can say, I'm here, that's a benefit, you know? And so I had to start there, y'all. That's how deep it was. And, I'm not asking for pity because, honey, when I tell you, I'm so thankful and grateful for all of the training, the education, and the knowledge that I personally went through to get myself out of the abyss. Just be like, thank you, because I'm sharing it with you. And like I said, this ain't no pie in the sky theory stuff. This is what I actually had to, go through. Okay, so I talked about communicating it, right? I've talked about getting to the point where you could borrow some of the things that I did, and those were time, interest, context, quality, reason, and benefit. The next thing I want to say is you want to increase your adventure and take more calculated risk. That was so scary for me. Oh my God, it was so scary for me to just sometimes leave the house. And no, I'm not a shut-in or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, y'all, allergies. But changing the routine of humdrumness that was sucking the life out of me was a big deal. And if that's you, if you need help, say it. I remember one of my friends, and I did a video on the 5 friends, and I've already mentioned it, but one of my friends, I called her and I was like, I'm scared. And I'm scared that if I stay in this house any longer and I wallow in this, that I won't ever come out of it. And she was like, I need you to get in your car and I need you to meet me. And we went, we love seafood. We went to this place. It's the kind of seafood that comes in a bag and gets all over your hands and stuff, but it was amazing. And just that, you might say, Michelle, going to a restaurant and eating with a friend is not adventurous. For me at the time, it was. It had gotten to be that bad. So I'm using that as an example to say, you don't have to go do anything crazy. Like, you don't have to go skydiving. You can do just something that maybe you used to do. And it's been far and few between because you've been so wrapped up in looking at, I've flubbed it. I've messed up life. It's over for me. No, it's not over. Okay. So the next one is change your environment. And if you need to, change your friends. That one to me is self-explanatory. And now this one is one that I didn't realize I needed to do. At the time, I even wrote about it, and I'm going to be doing a video on it, and it's called the Status Wars. And this is, I want you to evaluate your values, your morals, your manners, how you see yourself in the social construct. Are you in the rat race? Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? I want you to look at all of the things that you have accepted as truth and just the way things are in your life. And look and see, does that serve me anymore? Am I really part of that crowd, that crew? Have I outgrown it? Has it become so stressful to me that everything in me rebels and I can't do it anymore? It's going to be, you're going to have to be very strong and heroic with yourself to do it, but you can by evaluating all of those things. Because depending on what you come up with, your whole life can change. When I realized that I no longer was chasing or needed to chase the DR in front of the name or the titles. When I realized that I am enough, I do enough, I have enough. I am enough to talk to people and to share and to help and to be useful. Whole life changed. I started getting out of the rut, and it started being bearable to live in the present and look at reality in the face and be like, come on, I got you. That kind of thing. All right. And then the next one was getting rid of sadness, regret, shame, and unworthiness. Now, that might not be your stick, but for me, I had sadness, and I'm going to say sadness. I separated out sadness and regret because regret is all about lusting for the past or being haunted by the past. Sadness is more in the area of grief, where you're mourning the loss of something. And I did mourn the loss of that previous Michelle because instinctively I knew I was never going to be her again. And I missed her. I really liked her. But guess what? I like this Michelle just as much, if not even better. And once I realized that I needed to deal with the sadness. I needed to deal with some anger about it. I needed to deal with any areas that regret. The unworthiness was a big one. I've talked many times to you guys about that. Was one that I really had to work on, and doing the work, and sometimes just rehearsing mantras to myself over and over again, so that they became habitual and powerful enough to replace when the programming of the sadness, the unworthiness, and the regret, if you will, would come in and try to bring me back down low. I was able to do that. And so what I want to do is I want to just give you a few little things to help you. And thank you for listening about what it can feel like to experience where you feel like your life is ruined. So here are some of the things that I want you to do. I want you to start identifying areas that you can communicate to get the negative emotions out. Because in there, 2 things hide: negative self-talk and procrastination. Now you say procrastination? Yes. Procrastination lives in the unworthiness. It's the same area where hypercriticalness, being hypercritical about yourself or others, comes from. It's that internal editor that's always telling you what you could do better, or how you missed the mark, just all these different little things. So I want you to be mindful of that. The next thing is, I want you to evaluate areas where you might be people pleasing. Are you living your life on autopilot for others because you feel like it's too much of a hassle to go against their expectations? And it doesn't matter how old you are. There are people, I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because it's coming up. There are people who are staying in long-term relationships because they're trying to people please, and they're killing themselves inside, and they're looking and saying, I've ruined my life and I'm stuck and I can't get out. Those are some of the things that you need to look at. And I have an upcoming video where I'm going to be talking about what to do if you're feeling trapped in your life. Okay. So I definitely want you to know that I got you. I see y'all. I got you. Okay. And I apologize for the dog. I don't know what my neighbors are doing, but hopefully it's not too irritating to you. Okay. So here's the next thing is, so of course I want you to get past those things. And I want you to start doing where you cultivate some areas. So what I want you to do is I want you to cultivate the area of redefining who you are, redefining your values. Remember I talked about the status wars and, are you doing stuff to keep up with the Joneses? Are you trying to stay in a status that no longer serves you? This is where I want you to start taking the proactive stance to you define who you are and your values. Okay. Then this is what I want you to also do. I want you to evaluate areas where you feel like you've had setbacks. And you can do this. And I want you to either rewrite them as if they worked out, or if you're still dealing with them, write out a plan of how you're going to work them out. Now, remember, you can use my little words that I use, and you can use what kind of time is it going to take? What amount of interest do you need to have? What's the proper context for it? What kind of quality do you need or want to have to work up to get it solved? What's your reasoning for it? And what benefits are you going to get? Remember, you see, it works. Okay. And so the last one I want you to do is I definitely want you to find your support system. Now, like I said in the other video that I just recently did, I talked about the 5 different types of people that you want in your friendship squad. Check it out because it's going to have some great value to help you with your support system, because it doesn't just need to be your family or your relatives. It can be friends. And the good thing about friends is you can cultivate them yourself. You don't have to be born into a relationship with them. So yes, you guessed it. I want you to go on and check out this next video that is going to continue to help you on this brilliant quest you got going on. I thank you for listening to me. And don't forget, I need to hear from you. I need you to put in the comments what you're doing to make sure that you're living a life that you're proud of. What you're doing to stay in the now so that your future will be great. You'll never have to fear your future. I need you to talk to me and let me know, because we're in this together. Don't leave me out here while I tell all my business and expose myself. Come on now. All right. All right. So thank you so much. This is Michelle, your big sis with Brilliant Quest. And guess what? I'm going to see you sooner than later. Bye.